You are not alone. We all face struggles, we all have doubts, and sometimes we even wonder if anyone really understands what we're going through. But God sees you. He's always working, even in the darkest moments. That's why Hope Over Coffee exists, to be a reminder that there's hope. These stories, they're not just stories. They're proof of what happens when we surrender to Him and allow His grace to transform our lives. Welcome to the Hope Over Coffee podcast, where I sit down with real people who share real stories about faith, redemption, and transformation. Before we begin, do me a favor. Hit that like button, click subscribe, and ring that notification bell so that you'll never miss an episode. Now let's dive in. Well, hey, here we are back. I haven't sat in front of the camera and recorded an episode probably since November.
Wow.
November was the last one. I'm glad to be back. I kind of been in a slump, I think. And
You know what? Yeah, me too.
I think it might be because I wasn't doing what I was called to do. It's part of it.
That'll preach.
Yeah. So me and Zach been sitting here talking
For about an hour already.
He gave me some editing to go do.
Put him to work.
Yeah, put me to work. He's telling my story, which is I don't do it a whole lot. It's usually other people.
Yeah, I was able to turn the tables around on him.
Okay, it says recording. I think we're good. I had to cut that out.
Leave it in.
We'll leave it in. Hey, there's no production crew. There's no producer. There's no editor. It is all me.
Your setup's great, by the way.
You like that?
And in here, immediately when I walked in the door and I seen it, I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know, it's the atmosphere that you create. You know what I mean? You're easy to talk to. It's solid. It's real good. I'm probably going to cry. You know what I mean? But
well, I mean, you wouldn't be the first.
that's right.
It happens.
Mm-hmm.
So, why don't we start off? Your name for everybody and tell us some of your story, if you don't mind. I guess if that's where we want to start.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, we'll just hop into it.
Yeah. No. So I'm Zach Guidry, like Jared said, but I'm married to Jennifer Guidry. She used to be Jennifer Woodward. She was mad about having to change her name and all kind of stuff when we got married. She's like, why do the women have to do all of this? The men don't have to do anything.
She went from a W to a G.
Yeah.
I mean,
well said. I'm gonna put that on a shirt, dude. Yeah.
Well, because that's part of like Kristen's complaint is she's a whitener. She's a W.
Yeah.
I want to move up in the alphabet.
That's a good point. I'm gonna have to tell her that when I get home. But yeah, so I'm married to Jennifer. We're going on 6 years now, maybe 7. She'll probably watch this and
complain,
hammer me on Spitfire, like I told you. But we have 2 kids. So we have a little girl. She's 4. She just turned 4. Her name's Evie Ruth Guidry. And then my caboose is my legacy, my bloodline. My little boy, his name's Elam Joseph Guidry. So Evie Ruth, right? Uh-huh. Evie Ruth, biblical. But my son's name's Elam Joseph. So we took Jennifer's, my father-in-law's middle name, which is Elam.
Yeah.
And then we took my dad's middle name, Elam Joseph.
Nice.
Kind of
which
kept it in the family a little bit.
Your kids are just adorable and cute. They're I don't know, Angie loves them. I love them too, but Angie loves them to death. They're just adorable.
You know, they're full of life, man. Kids are special, right? Very special. They put me in check, especially my little girl, you know. But they are what I call fire-breathing dragons, man. They keep me and Jennifer on our toes. But that's all I ever wanted, you know, family of my own. So, we live here in Moss Bluff, and we go to church at First Baptist, our first Moss Bluff. Mm-hmm. And our kids, my wife teaches first grade there.
Recently?
Yeah, so she...
recently started that.
She was going to take a year off, and God called her to get back into school, right? So she jumped back in. She's teaching there at the Christian Academy. First Baptist Christian Academy, and both my kids go there. And so it's like this. Like
Not to
beautiful
put her out on blast, but is she enjoying it? I mean,
yeah. We probably.
Oh, hey, why? By the way, she hates it.
Yeah, the Christian Academy board is gonna be like, Jennifer, you really hate it here?
You really hate it here?
No, we love it, man. It's just a good church, good community. I've been to churches all over, right? Mm-hmm. Big, small, mm-hmm. And it doesn't take too long to see, if there's some smoke and mirrors going on or some fluff, right?
Right.
And the message might be watered down at these other churches. And look, I don't have any type of. It's just an opinion, right? My opinion, my experience with different churches. But when I first went to First Moss Bluff Church, I was like, this is a good sized church. And then when I got to peek behind the veil of what goes in to make it happen, or things like Fight Club, right? Where you can see in small groups like we have, you can see that there's something special going on behind the scenes, right? There's you don't just pull the veil back and it's there's one person back there pulling everything and they trying to, so it's you can get deeper there, you can study, you can grow, and then the community will help you on your journey, right? To get closer to the Lord. So we loved it there from jump, right? Especially, me. And you'll hear from my testimony. I've been to a bunch of churches, but yeah.
So why were you hopping around so much? I mean, like, because it sounds like you were hopping around.
Well, so I got saved and we'll talk about it in the summer of 2016, right? So completely gave my life to Christ, to Jesus, and in that I was traveling all over, right? Because we'll talk about it, we'll get to it, but I was looking for somewhere to settle down. But in that traveling, I was going to these churches because I was hungry for God. Right. Just being saved, I mean, I don't know if you remember, right after you were saved, you're just on fire for the Lord. Yeah. Like it consumed
you take
me,
on
right?
hell with a water pistol, right?
Oh, look at Cloud9 stuff. It was I was a Bible thumping Jesus freak, No, but yeah, I was just on fire for the Lord. So I was going to these different churches and I made friends with pastors all over Louisiana. I was able to give preach a couple of sermons at different churches. So a Baptist church, a Pentecostal church, non-denominational. So I was just experiencing God's people for the first time, and it was beautiful, but yeah, so that's why we're traveling around. So when God, and we'll get to it, right? But when God gave me the thing I prayed for the most, right? My family were like, okay, it's time to put some roots in the ground, right? Yeah. Buy some dirt.
Yeah. So how did you wind up in Moss Bluff? Like what brought y'all?
Well, Jennifer's from here.
Yeah.
Right. So my wife's from here. She lived here all her life. So it didn't matter just meeting her, right? So I met her in January of 17. January 17? No. January of 18. Right? So our December of 2017, and then we were engaged. God told me, you're going to marry this woman by the end of the year, right? So January 2018 is the first time I seen her.
Yeah.
And then that December, we bought our house, and I was engaged to her.
Dang.
So a year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we were, I had kind of got everything out of my system. You know what I mean? So it was time. I knew it right off the bat. First time I met her. So she's that person for me.
Cool.
But yeah. So that's why we moved here.
Yeah.
Right. Raise our family here. You want me to go from the beginning?
Yeah. Why don't you start at the beginning?
Right. Yeah. So it's my situation, especially my upbringing, is not unique, right? So, but I think it needs to be told. So, my biological mom and my dad were never together, right? So my dad and mom were 18 years old when they had me, and my dad still kind of like he was like, we weren't having sex then, you know what I mean? It's like, you had a kid at 18,
But kind of how biology works,
right? So. Yeah. So my dad and my biological mom were never together. So I've always known that they were, split up my whole life, right? There wasn't a divorce that happened where the family was together. And now I didn't know them being together at all. So my dad was, when I was 1 year old, my stepmom, which we'll get to her. She's everything to me, right? She's one of my biggest blessings in my life. But she was there for me when I was less than one. So the earliest memory I have, my stepmom was in my life, right? Married to my dad, and then I had my biological mom. So I was brought up in a split home. So I did some time at my mother's house, my biological mom's house, and then my dad's house, right? So I would go back and forth. But the thing that when I think back on my early beginning, we'll go, from my biological mom's side. She's in federal penitentiary right now. So not long ago, a couple of years back, the DEA, ATF, like FBI raided her house. She was actually she was called the Ghost because they didn't know who she really was, right? So she was, and we'll get to it, but even now, she's still the same person I'm about to describe. So my biological mom was, she's completely lost, man. She's full of love, but she's so destructive.
Yeah.
So she's constantly running from herself my whole life, right? Now, from a young boy, like I watch my son and my wife, they're just connected. You know what I mean? They just on another level, right? It's kind of like me and my daughter.
Right.
I never had that, right? So when I was splitting time between my mom and my dad, my mom was always moving nonstop. Like we moved everywhere. And we moved to some of the raggediest, just dirtiest, drug-infested, just horrible places, And I was a kid. I was a baby, right? So, I can remember, just, men beating on my mom when I was like 4 years old, right? Or like on a regular Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday. I am Cajun. Hopefully everybody can understand me. But I can remember like just coming home from school, maybe 6, 7 years old, and there would be like a week long or 3 to 5 day binge party happening in my house. So and it you talked about it earlier. Those things develop who you are today.
Yeah, absolutely.
In every way.
Yeah.
Right. So when I was young, I'd come home from school, huge party with strangers in my house. They'd be binging on drugs. I mean, you name it, they were doing it, right? When I was young. Like I said, I watched these men come into my biological mom's life and beat her up, break her nose, kick her in the face, all of this stuff from a very, very young age. So I learned how to kind of self-soothe and kind of like I was able to, in those, because it was so scary. You know what I mean? Even as a little kid, I was terrified. Right? Because there were strangers in my house. They were all drugged up, drinking. It was terrifying. When I think back on little me, like I tear up, right? Yeah. But that's looking back. God is always with me. You know what I mean? So on my mom's side, I would just kind of, if I came back from school, I would just kind of grab something in the kitchen, or if not, I would just go straight to my room and close the door. Young. Yeah. And I would just stay in there, right? While they partied and stayed up all night and fought and did all of these things. Yeah. Okay.
My upbringing was way different than that, but in the same sense, I think we all learn how to survive.
Sure.
And
that's right.
It's interesting to see adults because I like to study people. I like to watch people, and just. We can sit in a room, sit in a meeting, whatever, and I'm sitting there like, I know what's wrong with you. I know what's wrong with you.
That's a gift.
Yeah. So, but I think that's because of my upbringing.
Sure.
Learning how to read.
Yeah.
Read the room and like, okay, how do I survive this?
How do you survive?
I be quiet and I sit in the corner. Yeah. And then I can leave. So I mean, I see that, and what you were doing was my survival was I need to go in my room because I can't.
And it was more than that, right? So. But you nailed it, right? So I started to learn, before I even have a real memory, I learned how to adapt to my environment early on. Yeah. And I would always make it through. Yeah. So whoever I needed to be to survive that situation, maybe to avoid abuse, right? Or to avoid whatever, I knew exactly what I had to change in that moment to make it through.
Right.
It's almost one of my biggest strengths and one of my biggest weaknesses.
Yeah. Because
Yes.
I can see where we can't cut it off. Because in my people pleasing,
That's right.
I can't cut it off because I'm still striving to gain your love and approval.
That's right. So it's a part of I don't know if character is the right word, but I know character means a digging deep right into who you are. So that survival mode or being able to adapt at a young age, especially spending the majority of my childhood with my biological mom, split time basically,
Right.
but that's the chaos and drug infested and abusive environment that no kid should really be in, right?
Right.
So it breaks my heart when I think about little me, just behind the scenes trying to survive, like you said. But it allowed me to adjust, right? To change and to be who I need to be in that moment. In the same week, I would go to my dad's side, right? And he didn't know this for a while because, my biological mom had to overdose, right?
Yeah.
Later on in life to where my dad came in and was like, whoa, what's going on? He had no clue I was exposed to this stuff.
Come on.
So, and my stepmom, right?
Yeah.
So in the same week, I would face that with my biological mom and then go to my dad's house on the weekend, and it was like the American dream. Dude, so, sports, family, love, going to, I grew up Catholic, so we go to, mass every Sunday, right? Catechism Sunday night.
Yeah.
And I wasn't much of a talker, right? So I was dealing with that by myself, encountering these things by myself as a kid. So I would go from darkness to
actual light. Like literal.
Dude, so when you talk about like duality or parallel, personalities almost like being, it was night and day. Every Sunday we were going to, my grandparents' house on my stepmom's side, right?
Yeah.
They were my family, right? It's not extended family, they were my family. So I having to experience that and then go back to my biological mom's side, it created what I found out, created a hypocrite.
Yeah. So when you say go back and forth, was it like weekends or was it like weekend
so
time?
it was so like before school, I'd spend summers with my dads, things like that. But mostly going to school from birth. I was a majority with my biological mom. So school Monday through Friday, and then I think it was every weekend or maybe every other weekend I'd go to my dad's, and it was sports, friends, dude, like just barbecue, playing outside.
Close. Same city, same.
Yeah. So at the time, and my biological mom moved me around, but like Moss Bluff and Raglan, right?
Yeah.
So real close. So everybody knew, and I picked this up from my biological mom.
Yeah.
I'm able to, along with adapting and being who I need to be to get through the environment, I was able to hide things.
Yeah.
Right. So and really well.
Self-protection. You learned
really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I was able to compartmentalize and just whatever the case,
Right.
Go to baseball practice, go to baseball tournaments on Friday and Saturday at my dad's. And then with all my friends, they sleeping over at my house. My dad and my stepmom built us a beautiful house. I got two brothers on that side, so Gannon and Colin. And then, that Monday or the Sunday night, my dad would bring me back to my biological mom's, and it was chaos. I could literally walk in the house and she'd be, getting beat up on the floor. So witnessing that, dude, and honestly, you'll see how that, like, God put that in my life for me to get through the things that I went through. So at a early age, man, I was exposed to some pretty dark stuff. And in the same week, I was exposed to what it's really supposed to look like. Right.
Yeah, and I think you're trying to say that earlier. Like, it's like, how are you not schizophrenic?
Oh, dude, I'm probably all of it. I'm probably all of it.
Because
dude.
Literally the internalization of dealing with those extremes.
Sure.
Like I know, like there's in co-parenting, one house can be different than the other, but Man,
Right.
that's extreme.
So I didn't realize it until I started to, and I'll talk about it when I started to experience God, to where part of your sanctification or part of your process to really, after I got saved, I found out, hey, you got to forgive yourself, right?
Yeah.
Or right before. I'll think about it. But, you have to forgive yourself. Like, forgive myself. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
Right? But then you go through that process where, spiritual leaders in your life will be like, no, man, think back as far as you can.
Yeah.
Like, identify all these things. So when I sat down and thought about it, right, it was just like it was a revelation.
Mm-hmm.
But I was shocked I made it out of there alive as a kid. Right.
It sounds like it. I mean, just hearing the story, the glazing over of it, like, still like.
So my dad and my stepmom, they didn't have, they knew my biological mom wasn't living right. You know what I mean? But my dad and my stepmom, like, he still needs his mother, right? So but they didn't know the extent of how bad it was. They just didn't, because I just kept it all in. I was a quiet kid, right? They always said, and it makes me sad, they said I was a serious baby. So to me, like, because I was experiencing things that a 3 or 4 year old shouldn't experience. Right. So I was always serious. I was probably always defensive, in a defensive mode, always in a kind of observant mode. But and I kept everything in, Jared.
Yeah. Well, and
as a kid, didn't talk about it.
Trying to think through, like, okay, if they're saying you're childish, you're a baby, like, you were also, you were surviving.
Well, no, like I'm talking about a serious baby. Like I was a baby.
Yeah.
Like not a cry baby.
Okay.
Like serious. I was
sorry.
serious all the time.
You're serious all the time.
You know what I mean? Like you got pictures and I'm just like savage, steel-faced little kid taking family pictures. You know? So I was like a serious kid.
Serious kid. Got you.
So I didn't. I just kept it all in.
Yeah, because you didn't know how to express it, probably.
Yeah. So again, on my dad's side, church every Sunday.
Yeah.
You know, catechisms every Sunday night. So I grew up Catholic, right? Everybody in my family's Catholic. It's South Louisiana, dude.
Yeah.
You know,
it's common.
So I knew the stories of the Bible, right? But we didn't read the Bible like we read it now, right? In my walk now, we didn't really dive into it. We heard a small snippet of what the scriptures said at mass, and the rest was the communion, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing against that. Your journey is your journey, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If the opportunity comes to where I need to talk to anybody in my family about what I think, is the right path, or maybe something in Catholicism isn't right, who am I, right?
Well, and I'm also the mindset that Catholic, Baptist, Protestant, non-dom, whatever, in every one of those, there are going to be people that actually go to heaven, and there are people that aren't.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
It's not religion based concept. It's what's your relationship, and I can completely believe that in every version of religion that is at least pursuing Christ in some form, there's going to be some of both.
That's right. One of my spiritual leaders I encountered later on in life, he told me, he said, because I asked him, like, how does an indigenous tribe, like, they have to face judgment? He's like, yeah, they do. Somebody that's never encountered the word Jesus, doesn't know anything about anything, right? An indigenous tribe, completely separated. He said they'll face judgment. Yeah. So he started telling me, basically, to put some things in perspective for me. He's a good man. He's a big time pastor out of West Monroe. Super good dude. He's deep, and he said, God's programs in all of our DNA.
Absolutely.
So we know good and evil. We'll be taught some things, right, throughout life, and we're experiencing some things, right? I like that. I don't like this, right? Yeah. But he said it's a hard issue. Like, if you commit murder in the wrong way, in the middle of a jungle, you'll be judged for that. Yeah. They'll be judged in that way, right? But that's about as deep as I'll go on that. But when he said that perspective, it's like relationship, like you just said, or it's your heart, right? You know what I mean? It's your being, right? And how you are with Jesus.
Yeah.
God, but there's that. Even them, they never heard the word Jesus. They'll still be.
Well,
it's a what type of person you are. Right?
And even, I mean, the Bible says the heavens declare your glory. So like, it's supposed to be able to even creation
Sure.
says there's God. So, and I think we see that as a disadvantage for them. But at the same time, I think, as I sometimes call it, the Moss Bluff bubble, that you don't understand persecution. We have a disadvantage.
Absolutely
because we don't
not.
have to deal with life and death beliefs.
Yeah.
We're just worried about somebody being mad at us.
So, traveling the world, right? I was able to see that. Wow, we have something special. We're blessed to. For God to have us in a country like this, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, so I knew the Bible stories, right? Growing up, I mean, typical stuff.
Yeah.
It was all mystic. It's very mystic, it was mystic for me, and it wasn't tangible.
Yeah.
As a kid. So I didn't have, and I'm saying that to say, like, I didn't have anything to ground me, or I didn't have, when I would face something, I didn't know how to resort back to God. I'll tell you without a doubt, through every aspect of my life, looking back on it now, when I was in my room by myself and the parties were going on at my biological mom, whatever the case is, God was with me.
Yeah.
But maybe when I was 10 years old and I came home from school and there was chaos going on at my biological mom's house, I could have went to my room and actually talked to God maybe.
Yeah.
But I didn't have that.
Yeah.
So I had no real solid foundation to seek something beyond me.
Yeah.
So it was all kind of me.
Yeah.
Which is not good.
And not to because I grew up Catholic too, and by no means am I picking on.
Sure.
But growing up in that you talk about being mystic, I didn't understand either. Like I didn't. There's certain parts, and unfortunately, I feel like they kind of rely on, because the one thing I remember about growing up, I went to catechism, and I did all the stuff and sitting through church mass, and was, you always heard, this is the great mystery of
faith.
Like,
Yeah.
yes, there's a mystery, but at the same time, like, we can understand, and I feel like that doesn't get taught very well.
Look, I'll go to mass because my mom, Catholic, like my stepmom. We're talking about Liz, my stepmom, right? So she'll call me and my brothers, and if she says something, we like, it's our mom, right? My stepmom. So she'll call and she's like, I want y'all to come to mass for Mother's Day, things like that.
Yeah.
So we'll go, and Jennifer's, in the pew at Catholic mass, like, what is happening? Yeah, she grew up, so she grew up going to Hamilton, right?
Yeah.
So I think her dad actually,
the calisthenics.
K through 12. So she's, anyways, but we'll go to mass, and you know what? I can still get something from mass.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's the churches are gorgeous there, but like I can still, you can find good and you can find God in everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even in the bad.
Anything will preach.
Right. Exactly.
Even what we would consider secular.
That's right.
Because I can get words, I can get revelations from something on TV, and be like, oh man.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Yep. So I'm not going to say anything about Catholicism because look, your journey is your journey, and again, who am I? But I never opened up a Bible unless they told us to at catechism, right?
Right.
So I had no idea the what we can actually tap into,
Right.
And you'll find out those trials do come, So anyways, going back and forth nonstop till fourth grade. How old are you in fourth grade? 12?
You're asking the wrong person.
So about the summer, third grade summer going into fourth grade.
Okay.
My biological mother. So I'd been experiencing this for, over a decade.
Yeah.
Just this back and forth. I witnessed some pretty bad things.
Right.
Some pretty bad things. But my biological mother overdosed, right? I had to find all this out because I remember I have, snippets of my memory where I was at the courthouse and my dad and my stepmom came outside and was like, you coming home with us? They were excited, but basically my biological mom had overdosed.
Yeah.
And when my dad and them found out, my dad and my stepmom, they were like, what? Right?
Yeah.
So then the can of worms kind of opened up, and they started to realize exactly what type of environment I was exposed to, because I didn't see anything. How could I explain it?
Yeah.
Right? I knew it wasn't right, but I was watching. But anyways, so about fourth grade is when she overdosed. And, there was a connection with being a son with my biological mom that I never had. I got it with Liz, right? But I never had that motherly connection.
Right.
That I see in my son and,
Right.
my wife. But so my dad ended up getting full custody of me, right? So it was completely, all right, now I'm on the side of life that I actually want to mimic. And it was just an amazing upbringing from there on out, right? So it was sports. Me and my brothers played every single sports. Every summer we were traveling all over the United States to play baseball, football, soccer, everything. We were busy. I don't know how my parents did it, tell you the truth. But looking back on it, now that I'm a parent and how crazy it is to raise kids, I got a newfound respect. It's like, whoa, y'all did great.
Yeah.
Adam kind of brought it up at Bible study. But yeah, so I left. It was like a 75% dark side growing up for my first 12 years, and then it flipped all the way around to where my dad and my stepmom didn't keep me from my biological mom, right?
Yeah.
But there was, I'm pretty sure I was just trying to be a kid, so I didn't really know. They kept tabs on me, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, ended up going to live with my dad, great upbringing. I remember one weekend, Jared, and this is just a marker point. One weekend after I was 13. I was at my biological mom. I was staying with her for the weekend. I think I was 12. But there was a female babysitter that would come and watch me if my biological mom had to go do anything or what.
Right.
So she was 18, and she, we had sex. You know what I mean? So I was 12 years old. I didn't even know what that was, right?
Yeah.
And so she was basically, molesting me,
Right.
And I liked it, I was 12, right?
Right.
So,
right. I mean,
so I got it. It was like, man, this even exists? I had no clue, right? And then that put me on a path to where I thought about it all the time, right? So and we'll get to it, but I look back on it now and I'm sad that happened, because it really, in that area, right? I really got dark in that area, seeking after women, but yeah, so I was molested by the babysitter, so went through that and didn't tell anybody. It was just for me. I couldn't wait for her to come back over, to be honest.
Yeah.
So that happened. I got exposed to porn at a young age, and all of these really horrible things would happen always on my biological mom's side,
over there,
under her watch, right? And not to blame her. I love her. I've forgiven her, but I protect my family from her still.
Yeah.
But I got exposed to that lustful darkness, womanizing, pretty young.
Yeah.
So I was having sex real early, and I started to not only experiencing those womanizing, and I'm becoming a sex addict, right? Which I know now, after
didn't have a clue,
right? Exactly, but. I started to, once I experienced that taste of that dark side, right? And sex in marriage is beautiful, by the way. You know what I mean? But I was being experienced to it just not the right way. Started drinking and started doing drugs in high school, right? So I had a group of friends. It's my buddies, man. I love them. We were friends since, third grade.
Right.
Just some good dudes. No drugs. Growing up, they don't drink now, right? But they just some good solid dudes. But when I wanted to go to my other personality side, I had a group of friends where I can do that.
Right.
So I was always living this two-sided life.
You had a double life.
I had a double life from a young age, and I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
So, if I wanted to go do something I wasn't supposed to, I'm going to hang out with my friends that do that. Right? Always older kids growing up. Always hung out with. I'd been through a lot, so I don't know. I think I carried a bit of more experience than other kids my age. So I always hung out with an older group.
Yeah.
And I'm attracted to wisdom. I realized that too. So, but I would drugged up parties, and basically I was my biological mother.
Right.
Right. In a teenager. Right.
Yeah.
So, and my dad and my stepmom, they knew, basically they thought I was just being like a kid, you know what I mean? Like experience these things or whatever. But it was really, that darkness was really taking root inside of me. And Jared, it wasn't, what's the right word? Enticing.
Yeah.
It was, I was experiencing pleasure.
Yeah.
When I always experienced heartache from the dark side.
Yeah.
Right. And it started to, when I look back, it started to get some real hooks into who I was.
Man. Hey, we got to hold up for a second. Like,
which part?
No, and it's not really that I want to, not that I have an idea of like trying to go back to something. It's just, wow. The fact that, because we were talking about earlier, the generational aspect of it, you were literally being pulled back into everything from your mom's side.
That's right. It was in my blood to be that person, just like it was for her.
Yeah, and you're just getting pulled right back into it.
And it's if you look at her, her bloodline is my bloodline, but my grandfather, her dad, my biological mom's dad, womanizer. They called my the men on that family side. They call us serial cheaters.
Come on,
that's how much we womanize. So, as far as I can go back, because I'm breaking this generational curse, right? Yeah. I was really into it. And I found out so, I did bad, right? I did a lot of bad, a lot of bad. We'll talk about it, because it's important, right? Not to glorify anything, on that dark side, but, just to talk about the deep level pit I was in that God took me out of. But it's almost like it wasn't my biological mom's fault. It was. There was choices.
Right.
But it was, she didn't know anything about generational curses, right? She wasn't, she just knew her grandfather and her dad, were that way.
Yeah.
Serial cheaters or whatever the case is. And my grandfather, I love that man.
Yeah.
I love him. He's one of the patriarchs of my family from my biological mom's side. I love him. I absolutely love him. He was a Marine, right? So I joined the Marine Corps. We'll get to because of him, right?
Right.
So he was a good influence. And when he was at the age where I was born, and I would go spend time with him. He lived in New Orleans. I wanted to be around my grandfather all the time. He was a big Texaco company man.
Gotcha.
Worked in a high rise downtown New Orleans. I mean, he was a boss, right? Retired with Texaco after I guess 30 plus years, but he wasn't like he was. My biological mom witnessed her dad in a way that I never seen.
Yeah.
So he was a grandfather to me. He wasn't. If a female waitress would come up, we're all at dinner, and I can remember since I was young, he just liked to kind of flirt and talk to women. You know what I mean? And it was kind of innocent, right? It's just like a conversation. But my grandfather, on my biological mom's side, wasn't the guy that I found out my biological mother witnessed.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So anyways, that explains a lot, right? About bloodlines,
Yeah.
And generational curses. It's real. It's real. And it manifests in this realm. So anyways, going through high school, right? So I was automatically at default, I was living a double life.
Yeah.
Still adapting to being where I needed to be. And I think my stepmom and my dad just thought I was just being a teenager, right? But I was trouble. I was tough, man. I was real tough. I was gonna get this from my biological mom's side too. I'm destructive.
Yeah.
Like I self-destruct.
Yeah.
And it's something I had to identify. It's pretty sad, right? You know, when you notice that feeling, which is the enemy, by the way. It's a feeling when you're doing good. Oh man, you start to get anxiety and fear, like something bad.
Yeah, something bad is gonna happen,
right? Which now I know when I'm in, you know, now that I'm on this side of life and you know, born again, you know, baptized by fire, basically. You know, God takes you to glory.
Yeah.
In those valleys, He's still with you. He doesn't change, right? But I lost my train of thought.
You were
high school, living a double life, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, I ended up going to school at LSUE, right? Went to play a little ball there, and junior college, right? So, like I said, I grew up playing sports, and I didn't have like anybody really sit me down and talk to me. Like, hey, I don't know if it needed to be my dad or my dad was amazing. He's my hero, right? He's the best father you can ever ask for. And so is my stepmom. And it feels weird calling her stepmom. But I brought all that junk to college just because I changed locations, just because I changed education's levels or whatever the case is. I brought that to college, and it was like game on. You're in college now, right? So the women look different, you know, our girls. I mean, you're young. Girls look different. Like you got a little bit more freedom, you know? So it's kind of unchecked you out the parents' house. So I took it to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
So on scholarship, within 2 years, like academic probation, like getting ready to lose everything, right? So I would skip class, and I was selling, you know, anything to get a buck, right? I was selling mostly steroids, right?
Yeah.
So to everybody on campus. So I'd skip class and whatever, man. I was nothing changed, right? Because you have to change on a level that you can't see, right? It's where you really have to dig deep and change, and seek the Lord and let Him wash you, right? Because He does it all. But I was a heathen, dude. So I remember it was another Tuesday. A Tuesday. I was skipping class, right? And I was in this apartment, right? I got out the dorms or whatever, and I was in this apartment, okay? Just academic probation, just horrible, man. And I get a knock at the door, right? Because everybody in my family started to know, like, okay, something's going on, right? So I get a knock at the door. Oh, man, it's a totally different journey we're about to go on. And it's my grandfather from New Orleans. So he drove down from New Orleans to Eunice, right? It was probably about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was still sleeping. You know, that type of dude, that type of kid. And he knocked the door, so I get up in my boxers, and I grab the comforter, and I'm walking through my little apartment, which is trashed because I'd been partying and sleeping with women and drugging and selling steroids, and I was lost, to say the least. And it'll get worse. It'll get worse, dude. Get ready.
Yeah.
And I opened up the door, right? And it was my grandfather. And he's got these like almost prison-looking tattoos that he got in Vietnam, right? Tattoos on his fingers. And he's like still-eyed, like just like looking at me like I'm not even sure if he spoke. So I kind of put my head down, and I was like, all right. So here's going to be another situation I have to adapt to, right? I have to become another person, right?
Yeah.
Sounds like that movie, Become Another Person. You ever seen that movie? Turtle? Master of Disguise. You never seen that?
Oh, okay. Man.
Yeah, the old movie.
Yeah.
Anyways, when things start happening to me, it doesn't take me long to flip the switch, right? I was able to, even early, identify who I needed to be.
Yeah.
Well, now it's about to be game on. So got dressed. We went straight to the Marine Corps recruiting office, and I signed up for I didn't even know if I signed. He might have signed everything. Signed up to go to the United States Marine Corps.
Come on.
So straight from college, straight from living the dream to 16 days later. Not like I signed up and they were going to take me like a year later. 16 days later, I was on a plane flight to Paris Island, South Carolina, to go to United States Marine Corps recruit training. You talk about a shock.
Yeah, I was say, how was that wake up call? Because
You didn't have a choice. They woke you up. They woke you up. So, anyways, and my dad and my stepmom were completely supportive. My dad was like, "Man, I don't want you to go, right? You know, you my son." My dad was always trying to fix it. He was always trying to. He still is, right? He's always trying to. I know what you need. What do you need? You know. And that was kind of part of, not the problem, but they gave me everything. They were always there for me.
Right.
My stepmom and my dad. Spreading themselves thin. You know, we lived a good life financially, right? We didn't need for anything. So my family on the Guidry side are business owners, right? So, you know, but sometimes financially, and we'll get to it, they were sacrificing finances, you know, for me, getting me out of trouble, and never got in trouble with the law just yet, because my family had connections, so that small town, they always get me out of everything. I still get my stepmom to fix my traffic tickets, my speeding tickets at the sheriff's office. But anyways, you know, they were supportive, but they did not want me to go, you know, because now you're talking about we were at war, right? So we were in the GWAT, Global War on Terrorism. I mean, Iraq, Afghanistan was kicking off. This was 2008, right?
Okay.
So I arrived at Paris Island, South Carolina, and I was like, what and where and how did I get here and what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, so I went through boot camp.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll tell you about the switch. They are in your face. It's loud. It's
they won't
intense.
break you.
Totally, dude.
They want to break you.
It doesn't matter who you are. And I had fun at boot camp. You know what I mean? Your hard training doesn't start till later. Boot camp's just a mind game that you need to master. Right. And it didn't take me too long to get the grasp of that, and I adapted, right? So I ended up leaving boot camp. I was a squad leader the whole time. Ended up leaving boot camp. They meritoriously promoted me to the next rank, which is, so out of 300 plus Marines, I graduated top 10. Right? Nice. That switch. Yeah. But I tell you, the first week, I mean, it is crazy. They cut my hair off. Yeah. I look like a Q-tip. Wearing shorts. Yeah. You know? Anyways, just a complete shock to who I am. Yeah. You know? And I was like, man, I messed up big time, right? So that first week, and this relates to what I'm going to say later, but that first week, I was like I got up early. You don't just walk around by yourself. Everything's regulated. They tell you what to do, from brushing your teeth to using the bathroom. Like, I mean, every single thing. So the Marine Corps' goal is to strip you down of who you think you were. Yeah. And they make you into a Marine. Right. That's what they do. Like, psychologically. Right. So within that first week, we were just getting ready to get our drill instructors that were going to live with us for 13 weeks. I ducked off and I went to the bathroom, right to they call it the head, right? And I was in front of the mirror. And like I was conversating with me internally. So I didn't have God. He was not even it was all me. I have to do this. I. Right? Just like from when I was a kid. Right. I looked in the mirror and I was going through this moment where I was like in my room as a kid with the chaos going on with my biological mom. Like I was talking to myself. And, you know, I looked in the mirror and I was like, these moments happen throughout my life, right? So they're markers for me, like, because I'm entering a new chapter. Yeah. So I look in the mirror and I'm like, you can't leave, you know? You can't go nowhere, dude. There's no escape. So you got two options. You can be, you know, you can skate throughout this training and get in the back of the line, stay in the shadows, and don't make no noise
Mm-hmm.
and don't do your best, but, stay out of like, the real training, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of skate through, right? And there were a bunch of guys that were. First week, since you have to be here,
Mm-hmm.
be here.
Right.
Like, be the best that you can be. Like, I know it's an Army saying, which I don't really like it. Shout out to all my Army guys out there.
Yeah.
But like, be who
Yeah.
you need to be. Be your best version in this environment.
Yeah.
And I chose that one, right? I'm not saying I'm spectacular or anything, but I was able to identify it by myself,
Mm-hmm.
almost like a self-soothing, self-coping, self-conversation.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm doing this. That's it, period. And once I put my mind on it, it's a survival thing.
Yeah.
It's almost I set a default mode and I just go with it.
Yeah.
And like I said, graduated meritorious, promoted. And after that, I trained hard. I took care of my squad. Like, I loved on them.
Mm-hmm.
I led by example, right? Like, really started to kind of, amongst my peers, be a leader, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never call myself a leader, right? Others, should call you that. But I was able to take care of them, what I thought I was doing, right? Giving them my rations of food, like training with them outside of like the norm, when I could be sleeping or whatever the case is.
Right. I
I can go in and actually pouring out to others. And it made something beautiful that I still hold today, right? It started to really, really give me a good character trait. Integrity, honor.
Right.
And I got to grasp that I was a part of something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't go too much into my military career, but I'll touch on some things. So ended up going through boot camp, and then went to School of Infantry, ITB, so Infantry Training Battalion. I was here, carry this weapon and walk that way. That's what I was, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was infantry, but ended up going through about a year of training. Then I got stationed in Japan, Okinawa.
Okay.
So I did most of my enlistment there. So I signed up for 4 years. It was an 8-year contract, 4 years active, 4 years inactive.
Mm-hmm.
So they can call you back for that second half. But I was so much in it, I was going to be a career Marine, right? I was going 20 years. I'm gung ho, man. I'm a Marine, right?
Right.
I don't have any moto tattoos like some of these weird Marines, wearing their dog tags outside their shirt.
Yeah.
You got to ask me if I was in the Marine Corps. So I'm not just going to come out and say it. It's just not, I don't think, whatever. So with the Okinawa, Japan, I'll tell you one thing. The Marines know how to do two things. They know how to shoot weapons and they know how to drink. And we drink.
And drink.
And I really learned how to, whatever that is, drinking. Like
Yeah.
it's a brotherhood, right? It's a
Right.
warrior brotherhood.
Right.
So in Japan, it's a tropical island. Absolutely. Okinawa is gorgeous, man.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely gorgeous. And I spent most of my time deployed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But stationed in Okinawa, kind of single, just not doing the right thing. So if we weren't in training, we were out drinking.
Right.
That's it. Okay. So I really became a monster, is what was happening. So not only thought I was bulletproof. How stupid is that? When I say it, I feel so stupid. I thought I was invincible.
Yeah.
Working out all the time, the brotherhood and just warrior-esque type of stuff.
Yeah.
Which you do have to have that type of mentality.
Right.
But
Understood.
later on,
I mean, you got to have a little bit of, I think, offness
for sure.
to even have the mentality. I need to go walk in front of these people shooting, so I can go
Exactly.
shoot back at them.
Yeah.
But in you saying all that, I'm sitting here thinking about whatever we were talking about earlier. In our humanity, how much we commit to excess. Which I had this conversation way early before with other people. Because this was probably back in 12, 13 years ago, whatever it was. They're asking about marijuana use. Like, hey, do you think should it be legal it'd be okay and this and that because they were heavily into wanting to make it legal. And I was like, man, you're gonna have the same problem with alcohol. People take it too far.
That's right.
Why would marijuana be any different?
Yeah.
You're gonna take it too far. Just like if you're stuck in pornography, you're gonna go way beyond what you think you want to go. It's just
something
gonna
deeper than just the drug.
it's just gonna take you way beyond where you want to go. And I think even in so when you were talking about their boot camp, you took it to an excess. It was a good excess, but it was an excess.
That's right.
And then now that you're over in Okinawa, say that right? You're still taking it to an excess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I guess, from a young age, I was doing that.
Yeah. And that's just humanity.
Sure.
I think we all, even in the good things of, because I was literally at the table talking with the kids, even doing ministry, I can't take it to an excess because then I'm going to neglect you.
Yeah.
And you're my primary. Actually, my wife is my primary.
Sure.
And then you four, and then everybody else.
That's right.
So even in the good things, we can get too far. We can get.
You're absolutely right, and that's important. What you're saying right there is really important, right? So, and I'll go back. I was an addict.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I didn't wake up and have the shakes if I didn't have alcohol.
Yeah.
But I was addicted to lust.
Yeah.
I was addicted to alcohol, going out. It's the dark side for me.
And so even with the because I understand the addictiveness of our nature, and mine was in pornography. I don't know if it was really a sex addict or not, but sitting through groups of men, especially through Fight Club, and kind of toward the end when Fight Club changed, because initially Fight Club was really geared and specified toward sexual addiction and, and sexuality and all that stuff. It kind of turned into what it is now, where it's really just men in general. Like, hey, come in, let's love on you, let's point you in a good direction, let's head that way. But going through those groups, I've had questions because we started getting some guys that came in who said they didn't have a problem with sexual sin. I think every guy deals with some level of sexual sin. Yeah. It's just how far can you combat it easily? For me, it was, but
and that conviction as well.
Yeah, but there was a guy in there, and like he had both. He dealt with both alcohol and sexual. And I said, well, hey, which one is more tempting? Which one is harder to deal with? And he's like, alcohol. And I was like,
wow, really?
I said because in my mind, I never had a problem with alcohol. Mine's always been pornography, sexual ideas. And my thought was, because with alcoholism, you have to go get your bottle. You have to go get your drink. So you got a process to get over there. Right. Whereas with sexual sin, sexual addiction, it's right there.
You can do it in your head.
It's always in that Rolodex in the back of your mind that you don't want to go to anymore when you come out of it, but it's always there. So it just kind of shocked me that in someone that would deal with both, that he found the alcohol harder to deal with than dealing with the sexual part of it.
Yeah, I guess everybody's there's nothing new in the sun, but everybody's little situations are different.
Yeah.
The whys, kind of.
Yeah.
You're right. That's a good point, man. Sorry,
not to steer you off track. I was just through processing as you were talking.
No, I needed to hear that. Yeah. So yeah, sex addict, still womanizing, addiction to all of the things, right? In excess. Just kind of being a heathen, right?
Right.
And I was a heathen amongst heathens. Right. So that was the culture.
Yeah, you're feeding off each other.
But now look, and I'll tell you about this. I didn't think I was going to talk about it, but maybe I'll give a glimpse. In the Marine Corps, you have all these guys that, like you said, you have to be a little cuckoo. You got
a little bit. Which, I mean, I'm not discounting them because like I'm glad that there are men that are willing to do that. I'm not one of them.
Right.
But by no means am I like discounting you. It's just,
I'll say it, all crazy. I can say it. One of y'all.
You're one of them. I'm not one of them. But
y'all all nuts.
Even like with first responders, firefighters, policemen.
Oh yeah.
There's a little something different in your brain that will allow you to run toward the gunfire.
Yeah.
Whereas everybody else, we want to run away from the gunfire. So yeah, I can see where it's a good and bad thing.
Yeah. So it was accepted, right? So I'll fit right in.
Yeah.
With the majority of Marines.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have these encounters with Marines that are grounded and rooted in their faith, in Jesus, reading the word. I mean, I'm talking about like whatever happened in their upbringing or their encounter, they brought it with them.
Yeah.
I didn't bring anything but my being able to live two lives. No faith, right?
You knew how to survive.
I brought all my junk, but so one of my best friends in the Marine Corps, he was a scout sniper. Let's just call him Seth. Just keep his first name in there. He was that guy. So I was always able to identify, man, that's evil, and this is good because I lived it, right? I seen it at the same time. So it was always easy for me to discern. And I was seeing my other Marines who were all good dudes. They're all good dudes. But they were, acting up. So was I. And then I would encounter somebody like Seth.
Well, lost is lost. So
lost is lost. Yeah. So Seth was, like I said, a scout sniper, good dude. He had a little boy. It's been a while since I talked to his wife and his little boy, but I'll probably reach out to him after this. But he was married with a kid, right? And he was trying to get his wife back. He was doing the right thing. But what he would do when I encountered him, we met through training, and just that was my dude, right? We were both in sucky situations in training, so you develop this special bond, man. Yeah. It's almost a blood bond. It's almost unbreakable. Very strong. It's the brotherhood, right? So it's the strength when I got you 6 really means like, hey, I'll take a bullet for you.
Right.
So me and him just instantly, dude, we hit it off. I mean, that was my dude. But this is what he would do. When we had time off, he would come to my barracks room, and I would be drinking, watching a movie or playing PlayStation or whatever, just time off.
Right.
I would be drinking, and he would come in and he would do a Bible study in front of me. He was always trying to get me into the word. He was always speaking the word. He was always telling me who I was going to be.
Right.
And I was like, you're nuts. Like, you and your God, you're crazy.
Yeah.
So he would come to my room, and he was always trying to get me to, he wanted me to be saved, And when I look back on it now, that's exactly what he was doing. He was reaching out to me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see it. I didn't know what that is. What do you mean reaching out to me? He was just grounded, man. So I got to know him and his family real well. But anyways, this was our second deployment. Second deployment. I won't talk about it too much. It'd probably be a podcast in itself. But Seth was killed, right? So I was there. So I watched it. Watched the aftermath after it. But basically, another sniper in the area hit him on the back of the head, kind of, and blew off the back of his head. And so when we finally made it to that area, it was a pretty extensive fight. When we made it to the area, he was just about done. Right. He was just clinging, and I stood there, and like it was like it wasn't real yet, right? And I watched something leave.
Right.
I don't know how to say it. So I watched for the first time. I watched that I was watching him go to the other side, like in the windows to the soul, right? The eyes. So it turned. I don't know if it changed colors, but something happened. And so, I was trying to figure out what it was, but I watched him leave his body.
Right.
So not only was I looking at something that, wow, there is like an unseen going on. there's something that we can't see
Right.
that he always talked about. And I know he's in heaven. But I was able to see like, all right, man, like, this is the life you want, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched whatever was in there leave. So it confirmed that there's something that we can't see.
Mm-hmm.
Which we talk about it every Sunday. We talk about it's the unseen.
Right.
But man, it tore me up.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I was devastated.
Mm.
So they ended up bringing him back, and then they flew him back to the States, whatever the case is. We still had another 4 months out there. So it's like pick up your pack, you know, mourn a little bit, and then pick up your pack and go.
Yeah.
Anyways, it tore me up.
Mm-hmm.
So while I was in and I was in these hard situations, I thought I was gonna, like, you're not gonna make it. I wasn't gonna make it.
Yeah.
I was gonna die.
Yeah.
And it's a real eerie feeling when somebody's trying to kill you. You know, it's eerie because you want to be, you know, when you're being overpowered, you want to be like, dude, hey, whoa, why are we doing this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I'm a person, you're a person. Don't kill me, dude.
Yeah.
You know, like, I almost wanted to talk to him. You know,
Yeah.
like, dude, no, actually, I'm kind of cool. I think.
Yeah.
You know, we might like each other.
Yeah.
It's real eerie, but there's a level of fear that you experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's different.
Yeah.
And two things you can do. One of these moments, Jared.
Mm-hmm.
There's two things you can do. For me, you can let that fear consume you, and you most likely will get killed, or worse, get one of your buddies killed.
Right.
Or you can, like, identify it, get rid of it, and pull your training up from the back and resort just in your training. That was the biggest shield I had. So I thought, God is with us the whole time.
Yeah.
So my training became my shield. So I resorted to that. So, you know, essentially your weapon pointed in the opposite direction is your shield.
Yeah.
So you just resort back to training.
Yeah. And I was kind of sitting here thinking about the fact that going back to saying that they break you, well, they literally break you so that you do revert
You can do that.
to your training instead of sitting there thinking and processing and like, oh man, this,
Yeah.
because not in a name it and claim it kind of thing, but also thinking about, oh, I'm going to die, or you're going to get your buddy killed. Yeah. You're bringing it to fruition because that's all you can think about. You're not relying on what you know how to do.
So, and there were some other things that happened, you know, with Seth's death. Dude, I blame myself.
Yeah.
I wasn't there. You know, I was indirectly involved in the tactical call that we made, right? So I was carrying his death on me, which is ridiculous. You know what I mean? Now that I'm looking back on it, like, dude, it's not your fault. You know, that's what I want to tell myself. But oh no, it was all me. And thought about his wife and his little boy. But yeah, and so that moment again, right? The self-talk. You know, I had two choices, and so I chose the latter, right? And so, anyways, we go through the deployment, come back, and drinking's different now. Drinking's an escape. It's like a real escape. So it's not partying anymore,
right? Which
I would, but drinking for me at this time with that experience is different.
So were you trying to silence all the "it's my fault" and all that stuff, or
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely, man. So, and it was an escape. It was the silencing of everything I thought I was carrying, self-inflicted stuff. But drinking was different. So I told you I was going to be a career Marine.
Right.
After that second deployment, dude, it was just too much. It was too red for me. Right. Yeah. So I was like, I'm getting out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done. And dude, I went down, like, I started to become like a true monster. So not like a I need to become a savage to survive. You know what I mean? In certain situations in the Marine Corps, no. Like I was a deep, dark monster, and didn't know what that was. Didn't know how. Didn't know. Nobody told us anything about this. Right? Nobody told us how to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, you look at like your ancient civilizations, right? The Romans, right? These men were in close quarters combat with swords, right?
Right.
So this was real intimate fighting.
Yeah.
But when they would get back from war, their community would soothe them, would comfort them.
Yeah.
They would remind these warriors who they are,
Yeah.
right? The whole community would rally around their veterans,
Yeah.
their warriors, right? And really ground them back. And dude, we don't do that.
Yeah.
Right? That's why, you know, you have veterans committing suicide.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I forgot what the number is nowadays, but it's insane.
It's a terrible number, whatever it is.
So we're dealing with it wrong. That's a whole nother topic, man. I'd love to, you know, get online, my opinion or whatever. But, you know, I didn't know what I was going through. I just knew what I experienced, right? And alcohol didn't help a bit. I turned to alcohol, I turned to drugs, and I turned to women. All of them were in the darkest. They were never like this before.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting out the Marine Corps, coming back home to my dad and my stepmom and my brothers, living the American dream. They were like, who is this guy? Like, honestly.
Yeah. Well, and sorry, I don't want to cut you off. At the same time, thinking about the fact that your grandfather went and got you out of a mess.
Yeah.
I'm assuming thinking, hey, this is gonna help. This is gonna fix him. He's gonna be.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's gonna fix him. He's gonna come back great. Yeah. And you literally come back and like
a million pieces.
A worse version of what you left with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm just trying to process
exactly
out loud. Yeah.
That's exactly it. Right. And then not even knowing who you are.
Yeah.
So I've always kind of had an identity crisis, even from a young age.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was just everything leveled up for the wrong side. Dude, no faith.
Yeah.
Just dealing with this stuff, what I thought by myself. So got back and here's where my childhood comes up. I was a hypocrite. So every Sunday I'd go to mass with my family and I would go to dinner at my parents or my grandparents, and I was putting on what I thought was this facade. Got a job with Chevron, all right, as a health and wellness specialist to the Gulf of Mexico. Unbelievable job. 6 figures. I was 23. And you know, my dad instilled work ethic in us, right? So we that's what we do. We work, right? We love it. Just always been around business.
Yeah.
But when I came back, when I had to put on the face, I'd put on the face. My parents, my intimate family, they knew. My brothers knew. My stepmom knew, and my dad knew that it's not right. Like, it's not, something's going on.
Yeah.
And they didn't know what to experience either. They didn't know what to call it, right? Yeah. But they just knew they needed to love me, you know, and they did. Except I'd put on this face for everybody, especially with Chevron and, you know, my cousins and uncles and whatever. Put on this face.
Close people.
When I get back to my house, so I had a 2-story house by myself in Lafayette, 23, 6 figures. Like, I was partying it up.
Yeah.
But when I'd get back after putting on his face and faking who I thought I needed to be so nobody can tell what was going on, when I get back to this big house by myself, I was a wreck. I was a complete wreck. Like, I was shattered. I was shattered in a million pieces. And when I think back on it, dude, it was hard.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it because I was just surviving.
Yeah.
But like, when I look back on it now, I want to kind of talk to myself and be like, dude, shake out of it, bro. Like, it doesn't have to be like this.
Yeah.
You know? And so I'd get back in isolation. The idle mind is the devil's playground.
Yeah.
Completely true for me, dude.
Yeah.
If I'm by myself, I ain't doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So I'd go to this empty house, you know, and I would drink. I'd drink. And this is how the VA does some good stuff, absolutely, and I believe it's getting better. right? But they weren't doing the right thing by a bunch of veterans coming back. And I didn't have the worst. I know guys that don't have legs, like things like that. Worse situations in mind. That's why I didn't even want to go to the VA. It's like it's not. No, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to clog up no resources, which was stupid, right? So the VA was giving me, it was a one-stop shop for everything medicine. I was 23. I was taking 7 different medications from the VA. So they put a team of doctors on me. Yeah. So you have a whole team. Psychiatrists, psychologists, I mean, you name it. Neuro doctors, neurology?
Yes.
Yeah, brain people. Brain people. But a team of doctors, right? And they run you through the gauntlet of tests, and they come back and they say stuff like you got PTSD, right? Or TBI, traumatic brain injury, or you got all of this stuff, right? So they say, go downstairs and go to this window and grab your medication. And dude, like, go to your appointment, walk downstairs, everything's ready. Yeah. Like, you ain't waiting on nothing. And they're just dishing out what I know now as pharmakia. You know what I mean?
Is that
pharmaceuticals?
Yeah.
Which is right, like a tactic to use against us to change our state.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so it's almost like a witchcraft thing, right?
Yeah.
It's a dark side tool to help you escape or
whenever it can be turned into an evil thing, because I believe medicine is God gave us the ability to have medicine.
Absolutely.
Yes. And it's, again, excess.
Yeah.
It's when it gets into the excess.
Yeah.
Because we have no self-control.
That's right. Yep. So I was taking 2 mood stabilizers. I was taking Wellbutrin or Prestige, which is like an antidepressant. They prescribed me 2 Klonopins, which is 4 volumes in one. Just saying that sounds ridiculous. What? 4 volumes in one pill, so Klonopins. It's Klonopins. I was on, pretty sure it was Lortabs, but it was the military version of a pain pill. Ambien to sleep. And then I would go to my doctor back home, which is another vet, and I'd get him to prescribe me Adderall.
How did you wake up?
Well, you take a pill to wake up, and when you're ready to go to sleep, you
take another one.
I'm not glorifying this at all.
Right.
I'm just telling you the depth, the pit that I was in.
Yeah.
That's it. This is, stay away from, don't make the same mistake I did.
Yeah.
This is what this is for.
Yeah.
So, this is a story about Jesus and the hope that he can bring, right? And he's not any respecter of persons, for everybody.
Right.
And I know there's a bunch of veterans that will go through the same thing, I am. But anyways, I had a medicine cabinet full. So drinking, women at my house all the time, and taking all this medication. It got so bad, I don't know if I should say that. No, it's just passing it.
It was bad.
It was bad.
It was bad. We can leave it at
and
that.
I was young.
Yeah.
And so, but none of it helped. None of these worldly things helped. What I needed to, and I didn't know what I needed to do. Still didn't have God. I didn't know what I needed to do, but none of it helped. So anyways, this was going on for about 4 years. So you're looking at, 2014, 15-ish, something like that. And complete destructive path. Womanizing, I wasn't living right.
Yeah.
Spending all my money. Always having to have people over at my house because I couldn't be alone. Drinking like a madman. And trying to hold it together. You ever seen that person that's carrying a bunch of things and he drops one and he bends down and picks up that one thing and there's something else?
Yeah.
That was me with my soul. Who I was. And I had a real revelation, a real moment where I was upstairs at my house. I was by myself. And I was drinking. There was no music. I didn't even have my phone. There was no TV. And I was sitting against my tub upstairs by myself, and I drank a gallon and almost a half of Jack Daniels. So and there was missing time there.
Yeah.
So I lost 6 hours, and I don't know where I was. So I almost sobered up.
Yeah.
And I came to, and alcohol spread out right there, and I like, did I drink all of this in this one sitting, right? Like, man, like something's wrong, I don't know what it was. Something's wrong.
Something wrong.
Something's not right. There's something missing.
Yeah.
And we know.
Yeah.
We can feel it, right?
Yeah. I was waiting to hear where you were, what you were.
There's something
when
missing.
you figured out what you were missing.
I knew that something was wrong, and something needed to be done, because I was going straight to death.
Yeah.
And I didn't cry out to God. I did, but I didn't say Jesus. I didn't say God. I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
But I was talking to something that I couldn't see,
Mm-hmm.
and I was crying out, basically like help.
Right.
I need help. Period. Nothing else. I need help. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what needs to happen. I'm willing to do whatever. I do not want to be this dude. I don't want to be this guy. And passed out. Woke up for another 3 weeks doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Nothing I thought didn't change, but I was heard. Like Jesus heard me.
Mm-hmm.
Of course he did. And but he has his ways of doing things. So, and I firmly believe that this is the only path I had to come to be born again and saved by Jesus. This is the only path, because I tried everything else.
Right.
I exhausted everything. I destroyed every relationship in my family. All of them. Even my parents, my brothers. Every relationship. There was no bridges to connect. I destroyed everything. Nobody wanted to be around me.
Right.
I was at the end of the rope like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 3 weeks later, at a bar, and with one of my buddies, and I miss him. He got in a car wreck too. Little dude, right? Good guy. And we're getting ready to go out and meet some friends or girls or whatever. And he goes to the bathroom, and I'm sitting there, and I'm talking to the barmaid, and he comes back like after a little bit. I don't know how long it was, but his face is all busted up. He's bleeding. His shirt's stretched out right here, and he's swole up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they had three guys that beat him up, right, and took his wallet, whatever the case is. And like I snapped. So I was like, tell me where they are. Like the last thing I remember is like walking to the guys, because they were still in a bar, and there was three of them. So apparently, I fought all three of them. I sent two of them to a hospital, and one had a soft spot in his head. So, and the fight ended up going outside for some reason. I had a snapped broomstick in my hand. I don't remember that. They had weapons, so there was weapons involved. But I beat, I snapped.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, it's not like training, and I'm this Nicolas Cage and what's that movie? Con Air? Yeah. No, it's not that. It's not that. It was like definitely not just I can't fight. I get beat up all the time. But anyways, I didn't stop. Right. So I ended up creating a soft spot in this guy's head. So they air meted two of them to the hospital, and then of course I was arrested.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things involved. So I get arrested. I'm drunk like a skunk. This is the first time I ever went to jail. First time I get in like real trouble. And I'm drunk, so I'm just arrogant,
mouthing off.
Oh yeah. And they put me in the drunk tank or whatever, and they were getting ready to process me. And I asked them, because I still didn't know. I was full of blood. I was covered in blood.
Yeah.
I was like, what did I do? Didn't even know. And they were like, you or what am I booked on, is what I was asking. And I knew I fought. But I was like, what am I booked on? And they were like, you're potentially booked on murder charges. The guy's in the hospital right now. So I don't even know if it hit me, because I was still drunk.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it really hit me, dude.
Yeah.
Which is scary. I was at a bad place.
Yeah.
So I have a mug shot. If you look at me, you'll not recognize that dude. I don't recognize him. That's wild. If you look in my eyes, I was done. There was legions on me. There were legions driving me. So anyways, it finally set in, like after you sober up and you're like, all right, I'm really in jail. You know, that I realized, like, this is not good. This is really not good. And we knew the sheriff, right? So I was still in the drunk tank or the holding cell, whatever, before they put me in the dorm. So I was facing like anywhere from for like 5 to 20 years in prison. And, you know, for me, the 20, because they told me I was potentially booked on murder charges. Yeah. The guy was, I'll tell you about him. It's beautiful. But he was in ICU or whatever the case is. The soft spot. Yeah. So booked on murder charges, man. You know? So it finally hit me, and dude, I just cried. I cried. So anyways, I'd call my parents, and man, they were like, what, you know? Yeah. Everybody was just beside themselves, you know? And I brought dishonor to my family. And it shredded them, right? So they were going to do everything they could to try and, you know, be there for me and do what they had to do, support or try and see if I can not do 20 years. Right. So the guy ended up surviving, obviously. Well, not obviously, but he ended up surviving. And, you know, I was still facing this 20 years. And they put me in a dorm, and it's a concrete jungle, you know. So it's they called the dorm that I went into was the Gladiator dorm. I went to school with half of these dudes, you know, and they're so lost. Yeah. He's got some really good guys in there. They just lost, just like I was. Oh, I want to tell you this. So I was changing into my orange jumpsuit, right? So I was taking off who I was, like my clothes, right, that I wore, full of blood. And I was putting on my orange jumpsuit, and I'm you know, showering or whatever, and they're getting us ready to bring us to the dorm, and there's a bunch of other guys that they arrested around me, and I'm like, look at this scum, you know? Like, these guys, I would never hang out with these dudes, you know?
But here I am.
It's so lost.
Yeah.
Hey, it's so lost. I was like kind of looking down on them, man, you know? And if I can punch myself in the face, I would, dude. You know? And, but I didn't even realize it, Jared. I was in there with them, you know? Like, I just was blind, dude. Yeah, there were some serious scales over my eyes. I needed to say that. But so we get to the dorm, and you got to fight to get a jail cell. And so after the first, I got a jail cell, right? So after the first, night, you know, I was like, one of those moments, okay, this is who I need to be. My life is, man, I want to talk about this. But, you know, surface level, I was like, all right, I have to adapt, right? This is where I am now. Yeah. This is going to be my life. Like, your life's over. Like, forget about everything. In here is what you need to do. Yeah. Nothing else matters, right? So if you got to fight every day, you fight, which, you know, there's stabbings, there's all kind of stuff, right? But I was built for that environment, right? So flip the switch, became a lost person, right? In there and just adapted to that environment. And I would read books. I needed to escape. I'd read books. So I read all kind of books. So I was in there for about 6 months, talking to my parents. My parents would come visit. You realize who really loves you when you're in a situation like that. Yeah. Right? So it's my stepmom came visit me, my dad. That was it, dude. So my family, you know. And anyways, my parents are on the outside working. So my family, you know, has some, they got a good reputation around the town I'm in, right? So we knew the sheriff. So Sheriff Ronnie would actually take me, dude, beautiful. He would take me out my dorm, and then I'd go down in chains all the way down to his office, the sheriff's office. He'd unstrap everything, and he'd pray with me. Come on. He would speak life into me, and he'd pray with me. And he'd tell me who I was, and not that this is not who I am. Yeah. And I had no clue what that was. I'll take it. Whatever you're telling me, dude, I'll take it, right? Yeah. And he'd pray with me, and he'd call my grandfather in, right? And my grandfather would have these little private visitations with me. And they knew I had flipped the switch, so I accepted where I was. Yeah. And I'll tell you about what I was doing to my heart, but you know, I had accepted that I was in there. And everybody on the outside, it was like deadly serious to them. Like, they were all serious because they knew that dude, what are you doing? Like, what did you do? But I had flipped the switch, so I'd accepted I'm gonna be in jail. So I was able to like joke and laugh, right? You know?
Yeah.
And my grandfather would come and pray with me in the sheriff's office, and he was like, I'd never seen him like that. He was like, man, you're facing some serious time. Like, this is serious. And I was like, yeah, it is. Yeah. But it was already over with me. So things like that would happen, right? In jail. But my parents were working. My family was working with I probably shouldn't name drop. I think I mentioned it at Bible study. Maybe not. I'll tell you when we turn off the cameras. But the DA at the time was a close friend. Like grew up with my mom, my stepmom, right? I'm gonna start calling her mom now. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So grew up with Liz, my mom. And good dude. But God used him.
Mm-hmm.
So him and his assistant DA, which was doing most of the legwork, right? Started working on like deals for me. And anyway, so I'm in there for 6 months, and my family's working on the outside with the DA, the district attorney, and assistant DA to try and work something out. What can we do? What are the options? Like, what do we have to do? This is our son, you know? Mm-hmm. And I was turning, I want to say this. I was turning me off.
Mm-hmm.
I was turning my heart off.
Yeah.
This is how I was adapting. I was closing off. I was turning my heart off, right? Jeez. Told you I was gonna cry.
It's okay.
So, and it's unfortunate, you know, that I was doing that. But whatever I thought who I was, that good dude maybe deep down in there, I was turning it off to survive. I was literally turning my heart off. I was turning my mind off to stop thinking about whatever. I was turning who I was off. I'm not talking about suicide. I'm talking about like inside. I was closing my gates.
Yeah. Literally becoming a shell of who you could be. You're literally just.
I don't want to think about. All I've ever wanted was I didn't want nothing to do with my biological mom and raising a family like that. I knew that. So I watched my dad and my mom, you know, my stepmom. That's the family I've always wanted.
Right.
I wanted to be a dad. I wanted to be a husband. I want a family of my own so I can do it right.
Yeah.
Always, always, always. It's one of the only things I've ever wanted. And not to be in a split home.
Yeah.
And I was turning that off. The one thing I always wanted, I was turning that off. Yeah. I can't think about it.
Yeah.
Because it's gone. Right? So I thought. But
man.
So anyways, it's so sad to think about that. I was my adapting, learning how to adapt from a young age. I was able to do these things. Yeah. Becoming a shell. It's so sad, man. So one day, bro, the Gideons had came that week. Okay. All right, like at the beginning of the week, and they passed out Bibles. They were like, anybody wants to go to a Gideon church service or whatever? I was like, I'll go. Anything to get out, you know? Right. So we ended up, and we all got Gideon Bibles. It was a little Bible. And I don't know what they talked about. What is God? Yeah. You know? And I remember I read a lot of books. Full of books. Just escape. I was escaping. The dorm was chaotic, man. They were hooping and hollering, and it was noisy, and I was just, it was God telling me, walk to your cell and let's have an encounter. Right now, I know now, but something was telling me just get away, like get away from this noise. So I got up and I walked all the way across the dorm, and I went to my jail cell, and I was like, I'm gonna just grab a book, man. I didn't know what to do. I sat down and grabbed a book. It was the Bible. It was the Gideon Bible that I got that week, and I just opened it up. It was like, whatever. Probably King James. I was like, what is this sitteth? What is this sitteth and breadeth and?
Oh my goodness!
I didn't know what I was reading. Man. I had no clue. When I opened it up, it was Jeremiah 29:11.
Okay.
And that scripture says, "For I know the plans I have for you."
Right.
plans for your good and not your calamity,
Mhm.
right? Plans to give you a future and a hope.
Mhm.
And I couldn't see any other words, just those words.
Right.
And it scared me. So I threw the Bible. Probably a sin.
Nah, you're good.
So I'm like, wait, what did it say? Like, hold up. Like, but something was, I felt something.
Yeah.
I know what it is now. I didn't know then. And I said, all right, God, you know, if you're talking to me, putting God to the test
Yeah.
or whatever. God says, don't test me, or, you know. But I said, if it's you, all right, I know I'm feeling something, but let me open up that Bible to that same verse or to that, you know, Jeremiah 29:11. Then I know it's you. Because right now, no, I'm just emotional.
Right.
So I reached over and I picked up the Bible. And when I opened it up, it was Jeremiah 29. But I didn't see the 11th verse. I saw the 12th verse.
I don't know what 12 says.
I'm
Tell
about
me
to
what 12 says. I bet you know.
The 12th verse says, you will come to me and you will pray to me and I will listen.
Yeah. Which I don't want to cut you off, but at the same time, I'm sitting here because that verse is technically not for us. It's for Israel right before exile, right? And all I can think about is you went through exile. And you're finally to the point where you're crying out to him. So yeah, you lived it, and like that's to me that's wild to look back to go in reverse from
Old Testament,
well, and from where you were, everything you went through to where you're finally crying out to him after going through. I would call it an exile. Like I know you weren't like we're his children, but you're not his. You weren't his child yet,
right?
And you still got to the point where there's, which is so stupid for us, that we have to hit absolute rock bottom, before, oh God, if you're there,
you have to exhaust. If you're like me, you have to exhaust everything that you think you could control. Every option.
Wow, and I didn't mean I didn't
No,
want
you're
to,
good.
but at the same time, I was like,
good.
Man,
I know. So you'll come to me, you'll pray to me, and I'll listen. I'm telling you, blew me away.
Yeah.
I hit my knees. I didn't even know that's what you're supposed to do. I hit my knees and I started crying and praying, like a big baby. I mean, waterworks. I was at the end of my rope and I knew I needed something else, right? So I cried and prayed myself to sleep that night. All right. I couldn't tell you if I said the word Jesus, couldn't tell you what the prayers were. It's probably like the Our Father or something,
Right.
You know? But I was crying out, man. I was done. Who have I become? Who am I? This can't be it. This can't be it. This is, I don't want my decisions to destroy my life, right? We're not talking about like your job.
Right.
We're talking about your life. You can't get any more serious than that, and there's only one.
Yeah.
And I had destroyed it.
Yeah.
And cried and prayed myself to sleep that night. And he heard me.
Right.
When I woke up the next morning, guess what? Still in jail. Still eating jail food.
Right.
And something changed though.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to read the Bible to see what else was in there.
Yeah.
Right. And I knew I had peace for the first time. I felt what I know now is freedom, a bit of freedom.
Right.
Like I felt peace. I was still in jail though. And I was optimistic for no reason at all. Like just, there's a hope, right?
Yeah.
He said, all right, there's a future and a hope for me. And so about 3 days later, my dad calls. So I go to the phone, payphone in the dorm, whatever. And I pick it up and my dad's like, hey man, like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm good. I'm bad. I don't, what you want to say, like in jail.
I'm in freaking jail.
Well, and I'll tell you how blinded I still was. Well, my dad's like, hey, look, we worked with the DA and assistant DA, and we got you a deal to where you can go to this, like, because it was drug and alcohol induced, the incident. I can go to a rehab, right? There's a Christian-based rehab that you can go to for a year called Louisiana Adult and Teen Challenge.
Okay.
Didn't know nothing about it. All I heard was 1 year and rehab.
Right.
Right? Didn't hear it was Christian-based, didn't hear anything. And I told my dad, no, I'm not, find me one that's like 30 days or something. Dude, just what?
We have a solution for you.
My dad was like, are you kidding
That's
me?
not good enough.
So I was still blind, man. I didn't know. Well, anyways, the spirit of God was like working on me. Yeah. So like I called my dad back and I was like, I'll take it. Yeah. I think God was forcing me to say, yeah. Like, you idiot, So I ended up going. They got me out of instantly, right? And this whole time in jail, the sheriff would pull me out of the dorm and pray with me, like randomly.
Right.
And so I ended up getting out, right? And so I went to this. They admitted me as not admitted me, but they drove me straight from jail to Louisiana Adult and Teen Challenge's first phase house. Like there's 2 phases, right, to the ministry. Okay. In Shreveport, right? And so I went there and was culture shock again. I was like, I'm in a rehab? Like, what is this, Didn't know nothing about the word, didn't know nothing. And the way Louisiana Adult and Challenges is built is there's no science behind their method of becoming free from whatever.
Okay.
There's no science behind it. It's just Jesus, period. So it's being around the word, being washed by the word, being in a community, studying the word, being around other believers. That's it. There's no secret sauce, but it's the most secretive sauce ever.
Yeah.
So you go to churches all over the state. That's where that came into play. I mentioned earlier.
Well, I've heard of Teen Challenge before. It's not abnormal to me to hear that, but I didn't know how it operated.
And look, I was still arrogant. Like, what am I doing in here? Just I feel so bad how lost I was. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. I
have to get me one like that for my kids.
Yeah. Shoot in the face.
So anyways, but I had a moment, right? So they basically shoved Jesus down your throat.
Right.
Like, this is your option, period. Yeah. In a good way, in a loving way, and you work on yourself.
Right.
So, they tell you things like, hey, you need to go back into your childhood, write it down and see like what happened, and then talk about it, right, with other believers, right? Bring it up to the surface so Jesus can wash you. And, dude, I'm going to be honest. That first week, I was doing everything to fight it,
Right.
Then I had one of those moments in front of the mirror, in the bath. All this stuff, these revelations, these moments are happening in the bathroom, right? But I was in front of the mirror. I needed to look at myself, like, I don't know, maybe a mirror just puts things in, get you outside yourself to see what you actually look like. Because, we all have perceptions over it. So. And I was like, all right, man, you're here. Once again, dude, like, what are you going to do? And so I was like, I'm pretty sure first off, if I get dismissed from this program, I'm going back to jail. So I need to graduate this program just to see if anything good can happen. You still might go to jail even if you graduate the ministry. I was a student there, right? So anyways, I'm in front of the mirror and or you can see if that encounter that you had is real. See what these Jesus freaks talking about. So I looked in the mirror, but I was talking to God this time.
Yeah. And
I said, God, I'm going to either prove you real or I'm going to prove you're not real. But I'm going after you. And I went full blown, like, dove into his word.
Okay.
Dove into I had good days and bad days. Don't get me wrong. It's a year-long program.
Yeah.
I ended up graduating in 8 months, right? Early. And then worked for the ministry for 2 years.
Come on.
Ran a bunch of their businesses, things like that. But anyways, I dove into it and I went after him. So they'll put you in situations where you're at different churches all over and you're listening to sermons and you're hearing testimonies. So I started telling my testimony, right? So and I'll tell you about my salvation, but I was encountering Jesus. These supernatural things were happening to me that I couldn't explain. Miracles, right?
Right.
But nothing else did these things for my life, right? So I was encountering the Lord. And so there was one instance, right? So I was probably about less than 2 months in, and I was going after him. And I was feeling different, right? But I wasn't on a Jesus freak level like my other brothers were, you know? So I still had a level to go. And so I had an encounter with God. And he had a conversation with me. I felt pure love. It was a supernatural encounter. I felt pure love from my top of my head down to my feet. Everything that I was familiar with was gone.
Right.
And he spoke to me. And it was a ball of conversation. It wasn't no beginning, wasn't no end. It was a ball of conversation. He told me my brother was going to get saved because of my faith. Would play a big part in it. He told me about my family. He told me, like, there's a purpose, right? As far as like you're going to tell this story about what my son did for you.
Right.
What I did for you, right? And when I tell you, Jared, it was the most purest form of love I ever felt in my life. So that moment right there is one of the things that sustains me because it was completely out of this world.
Yeah.
I was having an encounter. God touched me.
Yeah.
And it was just love. I could have stayed in there forever. What I was feeling, I could have stayed there forever. I don't know if my eyes were open or closed. And there's some brothers that witnessed it. And I truly believe, because I felt it, when his love, pure love, every drug at its highest point that I've ever done, at its greatest pleasurable moment, put them all together, nothing compared to that.
Yeah.
The Holy Spirit entered me, like completely. So my salvation, I got saved right there.
Right.
That was I got saved by Jesus right there. I woke up, man, I was free. I was full of peace. I would read his word differently because I had experienced him, not just for that moment, but he pulled me out the pits, and that was a defining moment. Pits. My life was over. Right. I dove into him harder. I studied what love was. I would just pick a word and just study it. I like to research, man, you know? I'm not saying, I definitely don't know everything. I'm not saying that, but anyways, I was saved, dude.
Yeah.
I got saved, right? My salvation date's right here.
Yeah.
I'm on. So.
And where were you at again?
So I was still in first phase of.
Right, but where were you physically in that moment? Like what?
I was. Like you're talking about the encounter or when I. Yeah, at the house. At that house.
At that house.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, was this with the mirror?
No. Okay, so the mirror, I started going after him, and then I got saved about a month and a half later. Like completely. All right, now you're saved. Yeah. Like you're completely saved. So I was going after God, and then I was completely on the other side of the fence.
But it was at the house.
At the house. Okay. Yeah. And so I would read his word differently, man, more beautiful. I understood it more, right? Because of the experience and then because of, my walk, right? My journey. My relationships bridges started to come back, rebuilt. God restored all my relationships with everybody that I've ever destroyed. Everything that I destroyed, Jesus made it 10 times better.
So some redemption.
Absolutely. I was completely redeemed. He took my heart of stone. There's nothing. That's one of the truest statements in the word. He took my heart of stone and he gave me a heart of flesh.
Right.
2 Corinthians 5:17. Right? A new creation in Christ Jesus.
Right.
Absolutely true.
Man.
I was different, Jared.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you even say it's different. It was like who I was always supposed to be. It's who I was created to be.
Right.
But whatever molded me into that person before, the monster, right?
Yeah.
The dark monster. I didn't want to do nothing but go after him. I didn't think about women. I didn't think about drugs. I didn't think about alcohol. I didn't think about nothing but him.
Dang.
Good days and bad days, right? People would still aggravate me. You know what I mean? But like, I was going after him.
Yeah.
And I was watching transformations happen all around me to some of my other brothers, right? I was being transformed into who I was always supposed to be.
Right.
Anyways, go through just on fire for him. Got close with a bunch of I call them big dog pastors, right? They you know, some of them were spiritual fathers for other pastors in Louisiana, but you know, some big name pastors I still talk to today.
Right.
I have many spiritual fathers. And just pouring into me, just pouring life into me, telling me about what else there is to experience with Jesus. Right.
Yeah.
But I was head over heels in love with Jesus.
Come on.
Yeah.
So after the house, and after the year, what happened after the year?
Yeah, so I ended up graduating 8 months.
8 months. You said 8 months.
Yeah, 8 months. So the COO, you know, pulled me in his office, whatever, and he probably talking a lot. Is it long? Going too long?
You're fine.
So
I want to hear what happens after 8 months.
So
You gotta keep talking.
graduated early, and they asked me to run a couple of their businesses. Right, their ministry has businesses. So one of their big ones is it's called the Dotson Roadside Cafe.
Okay.
So it's a restaurant.
Yeah.
So not only did I work there as a second phase, higher level student, which is a whole nother set of problems because I was serving food and I thought I was above stuff like that, right? But God humbles you, man. He was forcing humility on me.
Yeah.
Right? And I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it, man. Just talking to the people, testifying, just, you know, talking about God. Me and you need to go eat there.
All right.
It's good people. The students, you know, run the cafe.
Yeah.
Right. So I managed that cafe for them, and just on fire. So I was able to speak. You know, got invited at a couple of local churches, or local and across Louisiana, to go actually preach God's word.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, who is this guy? I was on a radio station, Christian radio station, giving a small snippet of my testimony.
Yeah.
Told my testimony all over Louisiana.
Yeah.
Big, small churches, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
I was telling my testimony. And, you know, I was just on fire, man.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. It still is beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, but I was floating with Jesus. I was in love with him, right? I still am. But, so anyways, I was working for the ministry, so I had to, you know, graduate. I wasn't a student anymore, so those restrictions of like not talking to women, you know, they were kind of gone. But anyways, I wasn't looking for a wife, and I didn't even think about the one thing that I wanted my whole life was my family.
Right.
So I had a vision, but it was a dream. Right. I call them visions because when I woke up, these, you know, I was sleeping, had these visions, and I call it visions because when I woke up, it changed the course of my life.
Okay.
I started doing things different. So I call them visions from God.
Okay.
And I like, bro, I'm not saying I'm a prophet or nothing. I know I'm the furthest thing. So I was obviously sleeping, but when I was dreaming, I was in this huge white room, right? I was working for the ministry, you know. I was kind of at the end. I knew, I thought I wanted to get back into the world and work. I was feeling that pull to go back home, kind of. But I was in this big room. It was huge, white room, huge. I couldn't see the end of it, but I knew I was in a room. And I was on all fours. My wife would tell you this. And and I didn't know why I was on all fours. I just knew I couldn't get up, right? I just needed to stay on all fours. So I was kind of confused, like, what? And all of a sudden, water started rising in the room. So the water was creeping up and I could see it everywhere. And it was rising up, you know, the level of the water was going up my arms right here. And it was coming up, you know, my legs to where, like, I started to panic. I was like, why am I not standing up?
Yeah.
Like, why am I'm a drown, you know? Like, why am I not standing up? But I knew I had to stay on all fours. And the water came all the way up to where I had my head, like, right out the water. And all of a sudden, I was like, what is going on, dude? Like, why am I doing this? And I felt 3 pairs of feet on my back.
Okay.
I knew one was my wife, and I knew the other 2 were my kids. Not a boy or girl or nothing like that.
Yeah.
So God was telling me, like, that's like you're there.
Yeah.
Like, you're there. And when I woke up, I was like, dude, that's a weird dream. I dissected it. There's some people that interpret dreams, and they were, you know, like, dude, that's God's telling you He's going to give you the one thing you, because I wasn't asking for that anymore, you know? I was praying for a wife, specifically, by the way.
Yeah.
If you want something, you pray specifically for it. So down to, you know, sizes. Ask specifically, man.
Right.
God knows. So anyways, he was in that dream, that vision, he was telling me, like, dude, I got a family for you.
Okay.
And I guess a couple of weeks later, one of me and Jennifer's mutual friends, my best friend from childhood, which I had to restore that relationship. Not I had to, that relationship I had destroyed.
Yeah.
One of my childhood friends, dude, God multiplied it and made it better.
Yeah.
Right. One of my best dudes. He was married to one of Jennifer's friends.
Okay.
She wasn't looking at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't looking for the time. We were both seeking after God, and that's when it happens, right? When you least expect it.
Yeah.
And my buddy told me about, hey, did we get this girl or whatever? I'm like, I'm good. Like, I'm good. I was so petrified of like going back to who I was,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Which, you know, God takes you from glory to glory, and if you go back, it's all on you, man. He'll keep you in His grace and His love, right? And anyways, so finally, and it's weird. This is how it happened. She didn't want anything to do with a guy too, because she was going after God. But she finally agreed, like December of 2017, to let me give her my Snapchat.
All right.
I didn't know how bad Snapchat was. I had no phone for like 2 years, right? So
well, I was kind of like, wait, you got Snapchat? That's...
yeah. Oh no, not absolutely not. So anyway, I gave it to her. Well, we didn't talk on Snapchat. We ended up. She was like, all right, here's my number. So I called her, right? So we'd FaceTime and stuff. So I met her in December of 2017, and I've seen her for the first time in January of 2018. And like when she left after visiting me at the cafe, I like knew I was going to be married to her by the end of the year. Period. That's it. That's it. Nothing else. I knew it. We seen each other 3 times until I got out of the ministry in July of 2018. By December of that same year, we had a house. We bought a house, and I was engaged to her. That's only God stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But anyways, so we did that, and I want to say this. You know, I was able to in my walk after being born again, right? The process of forgiving yourself, the process of forgiving like my biological mother, you know, completely to where it doesn't bother you anymore, right? And you're free to talk about it, right? You don't have to hide it anymore. But I have forgiven myself about Seth. No more guilt, no more shame.
Yeah.
My yoke that I had on before was taken off, and I was given Jesus' light yoke.
Yeah.
I was free of it all of it. But there was that process where you had to identify it, bring it up to the surface, and really allow Him to wash you clean.
Yeah.
And it's the most realest thing I've ever encountered. And I was able to identify. My identity came back in who I truly was in Jesus Christ.
Right.
But I was able to identify with the stages of my life. Like my first 7 years, that little Zach. Then 7 years old to 14 years old, I was able to identify and understand what I was going through at that age, and then dissect it, you know, understand who God called me to be.
Right.
Some of those things that I went through, I'm able to use today, whether it's for His kingdom, whether to relate to somebody, whether to witness to somebody that's, you know, God's given me the ability to relate to people that are going through things and have that compassion, right?
Well, and that's, as we were talking earlier, like even my story and me and Angie's story of, we go through what we went through so that we can help those go through what they're going through. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Yeah, that's who said that?
David Dixon. He comes up, and I'm probably
shout out David Dixon.
Butcher it every single time. I want to get him on here so he can say it right. Maybe
he's
I get
great.
it right from now.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. But yeah, and also one of the things that I've learned going through what I've gone through is the ability to spot the same tendencies that I've had
in
in other people.
That's right.
To where a friend would be going through something, and it seemed like his relationship to someone else that I know, I'm like, that's you need to quit what you're doing because that's you're headed down a bad path.
That's a gift. That's a gift, man.
You're doing it wrong. I'm just telling you. Like,
and it's only for one reason he gave us that gift, right? To like warn your brother.
Yeah.
You know, or your sister.
Yeah. And it's interesting because just like anybody that would go through alcoholism and come out of it, like they could probably spot another alcoholic miles away. Yeah.
You know, and I wouldn't, out of all the, oh man, you know, there was times where I was contemplating suicide. There was times where my parents had cut me off, so I was sleeping in the car.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, there was just these, and I probably could talk forever, man, but you know, there was these times where, you know, it was pretty low, man.
Yeah.
I was low.
Yeah.
And you know, just like shutting myself off. That's really hard for me to think about.
Yeah.
But to identify like the worst moments, I wouldn't trade it for nothing because I had to encounter this. That was God's path for me, period. And I accept it and I love it and I thank him for it, dude. You know, even the worst parts.
Yeah. So like, even for me, with, especially one day I was driving in the car with, hang on, you can go across. Hey, we're in my living room, so people move around. People come and go. Matter of fact, one I was trying to leave. No, but like my daughter Julia, like we were riding in the car one day, and you know I was processing through the things that I've done and getting divorced and all that stuff, and was just sharing with her my thoughts and how being a dad and me not being there, how it impacted her. She literally stopped me. She's like, Dad, you wouldn't be who you are.
Come on.
Without going through what you went through. And I'm like, yeah,
you're right.
You're right.
Hit you in the gut.
And it's like, you know, my teenage daughter gets it better than I'm getting it right now. At this moment, I'm like, yeah. So yeah, totally get it. And like, it goes back to, he takes the ashes that we create because we burn down our worlds and he turns to these beautiful things if we let him.
Absolutely.
We just gotta let him.
It's the realest thing I've ever encountered.
Yeah.
It's funny to me when people say like, where is God? You know, I see him everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, and like my life thinking that it was over, it's a miracle.
Right.
Right. It's a miracle.
It's a miracle. Parker agrees. He's like, yeah.
You know, it's a miracle. That's what God looks like. A supernatural victory in your life.
Yeah.
You know, where nothing else, he showed up.
Yeah.
Period. Right? It's the parting of the Red Sea. It's the name them, right? It's a miracle in my life, right?
Yeah.
And and why are we witnesses, right? Because we experienced God, right? And you witness to people, right?
Yeah.
And of course you witness because they experienced Jesus, right, at the time. But you know, I wouldn't change anything about my story. And then now, you know, to finish it off, Jennifer and I were married, right? And we after we got married, I'll tell you another beautiful thing about God, how strong he is. When we got engaged, we decided to be celibate. Now, if you think of who the heathen I was, and we decided to go celibate and keep our marriage bed undefiled until, you know, we made our vows, right? Made our covenant with God.
Right.
So we went celibate. Dude, one of the hardest things I went through, man. Dude, there was times I was like, no, God understands, you know? And she was like, no, she was strong, right? And then there's times where like, she was like, get over here, you know? I was like, no,
you need to leave.
So
because this ain't good.
And I firmly believe, and I'll tell people this, like, I truly believe that's why we're blessed with the kids that we had, because we had them back to back. After we got married, we were pregnant with my daughter a couple months after we got married. And then when she came, after she was here, we had my little boy. So 2020, my daughter was, we call her Storm Born because we had her in the Hurricane Laura, right?
Oh.
During Hurricane, dude, that's a podcast in itself. We rode out the hurricane.
I remember you did
Oh,
say that.
yeah. So that is a straight up podcast in itself.
Yeah.
But then we had my little boy, you know, my hammer. I call him my hammer. But those sets of footprints,
Yeah.
right, on my back. So it was me holding my family up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, from the world, right? But
And-
just just restored everything, dude.
Yeah.
You know, just restored everything, man.
And thinking about, you know, what I shared with, I don't remember where I shared it. If it was in this segment or the other one, we were just, you know, talking of, man, the honor it is to have your family on your back. That's
right.
We are, as men, we're called to bear that burden, to support them and lead them, and it's a blessing to be able to do it.
Absolutely. And it's unfortunate, you know, I'll speak for myself. It's unfortunate we lose sight of that. Like Peter's walking on water and he's like, starts to doubt.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, dude, you know, but that's who we are. We're flawed. Like I'm filthy rags, man. And I would tell anybody that, you know, but because of Jesus, I'm beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, I love you.
Yeah. And even going back to the verse of, well, I am a new creation. You're a new creation in the fact that you're meeting to the expectations of God that had for you to begin with.
That's right.
But at the same time, my heart is deceitfully wicked.
That's right.
So we're two things at once. We're a filthy human, and we're redeemed. And we fight this battle every single day of which one do I choose? Yeah. Because we do have free choice.
That's right.
And man, it's
a war too.
Oh,
it's a war in your head. Get ready.
It is such a war. It's such a battle. And
you know, but you got the helper. You know, the conviction that comes. You know, which helps you try and stay on that path.
Yeah.
And you weave in and off the path, man. Look, there's miracles that happen in my life, and supernatural victories, right?
Yeah.
Things that, getting up in front of a church and like telling my testimony.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
No way. I couldn't even walk in front of people at church. I'd get nervous, right?
Yeah.
But it's because of him.
Yeah.
These things are possible. But you do, it's a process. Keep on going after him, right?
Well, I mean, even like this whole podcast of which I'm thankful that you got to come on and are willing to share your story, in which, by the way, you share it very well. You are very,
because I feel like I sound ridiculous.
No, you're very methodical, and like you get from beginning to end very well.
Appreciate that.
I can see why God has called you to share it. I'm blessed that you chose me as one of your avenues to even get it out, because not a big podcast. I'm not famous by any stretch of the imagination.
Not yet.
But and if he so chooses, hey, we'll roll with it.
Right.
And that's what I tell everybody else is just, I'm gonna keep doing it until he tells me
that's right.
Otherwise.
That's
and to which also, as we kind of, I don't remember what we talked about it, but like the ministry, the Stealing Zone ministry, I want the Hope Over Coffee podcast to be the official podcast of that ministry, and just I want to be a part of something bigger.
That's right.
And I think as long as I'm putting him first, he will keep leading us down that path, and not for YouTube celebrity, not for being famous in the Christian world, even though those thoughts pop in your head.
Yeah, they do, of course. Because you want to reach people.
Yeah, you do.
That's the point.
Yeah, you do. And it's delusions of grandeur of what it could be. But at the same time, what if he does? What if he does make it a little bigger? What if he does? What if I keep surrendering? Because my word of the year, I don't do New Year resolutions. I always think of a word that I think God wants me to pursue for the year. And dude, January 1st, I was sitting at that desk.
What is it?
Surrender.
Wow. Attaboy.
Whoo! rough, man.
That's not easy, dude.
No, it's not easy.
It's not easy.
But at the same time, even with this podcast, I have to remember, as much as I had that delusion of making it big and letting it turn into where we're turning, without him, this is garbage. This is useless.
That's right.
We're just talking.
It's all for self.
Without him being at the center of it, there's no point of me even putting any of this out.
Yeah.
It's surrendering to the fact that it's what he wants.
Stick to it, dude. I see what you got going on. So, it might not be big to you, but because it's a calling and because it's something that you have to do like a ministry, you're always going to want more. In a good way. Not like greed, but like, hey, so I have this mission. I want to be the best at it.
Yeah.
So you're always I want more. Not in a bad way.
Yeah.
But to fulfill his calling. But you're already reaching people, man.
Yeah. Absolutely. And to get people like you on, like I really didn't know your story. I mean, I knew like I've heard you talk about little pieces of this and that, but like you, like Dusty, man, y'all went through things I can't even fathom. I have no concept of what it would be like to be growing up in the situations that y'all grew up in.
Sure.
And to have the grace and blessing to be able to share y'all's story with other people.
Freedom.
It's like
he's given us freedom from all that stuff. Because I would never tell anybody that. You know what I mean? Like I'm hot. That's my skeletons in my closet.
Yeah.
But now because of him, it's weaponized for the kingdom.
Yeah. That's good.
And it's not my story. It's the story of him.
Yeah. Well, it's the story of him working through you.
That's right.
To getting to the point that you're at now.
And look, real quick, I want to say it, but it's been years. Yeah. It has been 5 years since I told my testimony.
Okay.
Weaving in and off the path is going to happen.
We can get distracted.
So it's been 5 years since I told my testimony.
Yeah.
And I think it was last month in December.
Mm-hmm.
Like I felt this, not real bad, but like I felt like I'm not doing what I need to be. Like I want to weaponize my testimony again for the kingdom.
I gotta get uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. I canceled a bunch. I canceled the first one.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't have nothing going on.
You just didn't want to sit with me. That's all it was.
So at Fight Club, I was supposed to do a talk, and I canceled that for my testimony. It's just I haven't been in the best spot. In and off the path. I still love Jesus. Everything's fine,
Right.
But you go through these like fear, these things that where you're listening to the wrong voice.
Yeah.
Right. But my thing was I want to start telling my testimony.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to tell. It'd be ridiculous not to. You are doing a disservice for the kingdom of God. Yeah. And it's not because of me. I didn't do anything. Not a thing. The only thing I did was destroy everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I let her burn it to the ground.
I burned to the ground, dude, and smile. Like I love it, Oh, it's crazy.
I'm laughing about it the whole time.
Like a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Nothing's wrong here. We're good. But I actually got on my knees and around Christmas and I asked, I think I told you that in a small group.
Yeah.
And I asked this before you came to me about being on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I asked God that give me opportunities to start telling my testimony. And Hope Over Coffee showed up, man. Yeah.
He's like, I already got that worked out for you.
Yeah. He's like, we're good. Jared, step up.
Hang on a sec.
I hope it recorded.
No, it is. It's just I don't understand what it's doing.
Can we see you pretty cat?
That's Parker. He's a menace.
Parker. That's a little tiger. But anyways, Jared, I don't know if it's on, but dude, thank you. Thank you for the invite, man.
Yeah.
Seriously.
No, it's good. And for anybody, hang on.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you like Zach's story, if you like what we're doing. I mean, in the beginning, I struggled even saying that.
Mm.
Oh, it's God's ministry. Is he going to grow?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the world we live in, to get the algorithm to promote you, you got to hit the buttons.
That's what everybody, these big podcasts, they still say it. It's just science almost,
Yeah.
It's a numbers thing, but like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
And share.
I hope I haven't messed anything up because it looks like I don't know what's going on. I'm kind of scared now.
Oh gosh.
We'll call it. And so thanks again. Until next time.